Atlantic that the question on the minds of the top military commanders after listening to Donald Trump yesterday must have been, how can I know that an order I received to launch my missiles came from a sane president?
Our job, my job, has been to determine which leaders simply did what they must to answer the prerogatives of civilian leadership, and which leaders are truly invested in the woke department, and therefore incapable of embracing the War Department and executing new lawful orders. That's it. It's that simple. So for the past 8 months, we've gotten a good look under the hood of our officer corps. We've done our best to thoroughly assess the human terrain. We've had to make trade-offs and some difficult decisions. It's more of an art than a science. We have been and will continue to be judicious, but also expeditious. The new compass heading is clear. Out with the Shirellis, the McKenzies, and the Millies, and in with the Stockdales, the Schwarzkopfs, and the Pattons. More leadership changes will be made, of that I'm certain. Not because we want to, but because we must. Once again, this is life and death. The sooner we have the right people, the sooner we can advance the right policies. Personnel is policy. But I look out at this group, and I see great Americans. Leaders who have given decades to our great republic, at great sacrifice to yourselves and to your families. But if the words I'm speaking today are making your heart sink, then you should do the honorable thing and resign. We would thank you for your service.
In recent weeks, multiple senior military figures have reportedly stepped down or announced early retirements following a high-profile event featuring Donald Trump and Pete Hegseth. What was marketed as an address to top officers at Quantico, according to several media reports, felt more like a rally than a briefing. Inside that room were hundreds of senior commanders, yet observers described the tone as political rather than professional. The most striking aftermath wasn't applause or spin, it was the quiet resignations that followed. When seasoned generals begin to step back from power, analysts say it often signals deep discomfort, a moment when the line between civilian leadership and political coercion feels tested. That's not routine turnover. That's a subtle warning from within the ranks.
Mission. And I told Pete we should use some of these dangerous cities as training grounds for our military, National Guard, but military.
Trump's strained relationship with the Pentagon. This tension didn't start at Quantico. Commentators have long noted that Donald Trump's relationship with the military establishment has been uneasy. During his presidency, he often criticized senior leadership as too political or too focused on bureaucracy. He reshuffled top positions frequently, treating command roles in a way that some analysts described as politically motivated. He's previously referred to certain U.S. cities as war zones, and suggested they could be used as training grounds, language that, according to legal experts, blurs the constitutional boundary between defense and domestic policing. Every officer in that room has sworn an oath to the Constitution, not to any individual. When they hear rhetoric implying a shift toward internal enforcement, it naturally raises concern about the integrity of lawful command.
Move out and draw fire, because we are the War Department. Godspeed.
Room! Attention!
One departure drew particular attention. General Thomas Busier, then head of Air Force Global Strike Command, who announced his retirement citing personal and family reasons. While such phrasing is standard, analysts quickly noted the timing coming just days after Trump reportedly questioned his general's loyalty. Observers familiar with Busier's career described him as an expert in deterrent strategy, the branch of command tied to nuclear readiness and precision strike operations. For someone in that post to step away at such a moment raised questions about morale and stability. This wasn't routine rotation. Busier had a history of navigating the delicate line between civilian and military authority. When he left, some defense commentators interpreted it not as burnout, but as a quiet signal that the institution itself was uneasy. If a general responsible for America's nuclear deterrent feels that confidence in leadership is wavering, it sends ripples through the entire chain of command. As one analyst put it, Power in uniform stops at lawful boundaries, not political ones. After Quantico, a series of retirements and early exits followed among senior officers. While each cited different personal reasons, the common thread, according to several defense observers, was growing discomfort with perceived political pressure inside the Pentagon. Some outlets called it a purge, but that label misses the nuance. These weren't forced dismissals, they were voluntary exits. Officers, it seems, were quietly choosing to step away rather than risk complicity in blurred chains of command. Even those who stayed reportedly distanced themselves from Trump's framing of the military as a war department. That language unsettled veterans of modern conflicts, where the distinction between enemy and citizen defines lawful engagement. When Trump suggested that cities like Chicago or San Francisco could serve as training grounds, legal scholars warned that such remarks might raise constitutional concerns. Military leaders, facing that ambiguity, began asking hard questions. What happens if rhetoric turns into actual policy? The real consequence of these exits isn't just optics, it's function. As defense analysts describe it, when experienced commanders leave, planning slows and oversight weakens. What looks like politics on the outside becomes paralysis on the inside. Trump's Quantico speech, presented as a rallying call, may have accelerated that instability. By redefining cities as training grounds and describing unrest as warfare, he blurred the legal framework that guides national security decisions. Commanders, uncertain of intent, often pause execution to ensure legality. That protective instinct can stall everything from budgeting to strategic readiness. In short, confusion at the top breeds hesitation throughout the ranks, and for Trump, critics argue that hesitation delivers a painful truth. Control isn't the same as command. If generals question whether orders remain within lawful limits, authority becomes symbolic rather than operational. At the heart of this ongoing friction is Trump's recurring idea that the military should take a more active role inside the country. He's previously referred to certain U.S. cities as war zones. At the heart of this standoff is a long-standing philosophical divide: the military code of impartial service versus the political culture of personal loyalty. Every officer learns that duty belongs to the Constitution, not to a single leader. When political rhetoric equates loyalty to the individual rather than the institution, it forces a moral and legal dilemma. Trump's critics argue that his praise of past aggressive generals while labeling modern ones weak misreads military virtue. True discipline lies in lawful restraint, not applause lines. Officers serve silently, bound by process and legality, not performance. When loyalty becomes a public spectacle, it threatens that balance. Rank-and-file troops take cues from their superiors. If they see honest dissent punished, integrity suffers. Over time, professionalism gives way to politics, and cohesion erodes. As historians often warn, when militaries become instruments of personal loyalty, they lose clarity, and democracies lose stability. The long-term damage to civil-military relations. The fallout from these events will outlast the headlines. Civil-military relations rely on mutual restraint. Civilians must avoid politicizing command, and the military must remain apolitical. Analysts say that Trump's style of blending campaign themes into defense messaging has strained that balance. Future presidents of either party will have to rebuild trust, reminding both sides that authority in a democracy is lawful, not personal. Internationally, this turbulence has not gone unnoticed. Allies depend on American consistency. Adversaries test its fractures. When generals resign amid political controversy, it raises doubts about coherence at the highest levels of power. Domestically, public faith in the military as a neutral institution can waver if uniforms are seen as partisan symbols. Repairing that trust will take time and leadership grounded in humility, not spectacle. In the end, the officers who stepped away may have done so to protect the very institution they served, drawing a quiet but powerful line between service and submission. Because in a democracy, the strength of the military doesn't come from loyalty to a man, it comes from loyalty to the law. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe, like and share to get more updates.